Hi, I'm Lloyd Gross with the Learning South Genesee Community College, and in this segment, I would like to talk to you a little bit about learning and SMART goals. We want to talk about the notion of academic success versus academic value. Okay, now, first of all, are those the same? Consider this. Have you ever taken a class in which you felt like you really understood the material, but you didn't get the grade you felt you deserved? Or the opposite, have you ever passed a class with an easy A, but you feel like you didn't learn very much? That disconnect happens regularly with all students, and it's important to acknowledge it. Success is not the same as value. Success is largely based around these key concepts here, and let's talk about what they are. So, conceptually, is your learning space a good framework for understanding new ideas? Did the course offer enough anchor points for you to be able to properly build new knowledge and attach it to your existing understanding? In self efficacy, do you believe you can be successful at this course? You'd be surprised how often that's the primary indicator of success. Your sense of belonging. If you feel a sense of community or fellowship with the college, academic and personal success become much easier. Your perceived value. Do you feel you're working through a quality curriculum that will help you achieve your goals? If you're in a developmental course or a prerequisite or a gen ed requirement, you need to see that value. And challenge versus attainability. This is a very careful balance. Is the course material challenging enough that you're learning new things? But is it also within reasonable reach for your level of understanding? That is a better indicator of success than completing the course. So I want to talk about SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time based. What do we mean by that? Well, specific, not get healthy, but I want to lose 20 pounds. When we talk about attainable, it's not learn to speak a new language, it's learn the first chapter in my new language book. When we talk about time based, it's not, oh, I want to work with 5 more students per week. It's, I want to work with 5 more students per week by the end of the next month. So I'm setting very important goals for myself. When we talk about SMART goals, I want to have you do an activity here, and this will help you create goals that are SMART. I'm going to have you start with 3 goals. Why 3? Well, because when we try and catch all the fish, sometimes we lose all of the fish. So we're going to pick 3 goals, and we're going to fill out our key milestones or our key factors in these goals. And I'm going to go through this a little bit quickly, but you can pause your video and really take the time to do this exercise. You'll find it's eye-opening and important. So we talked about our 3 goals. First of all, we're going to write down what they are. Okay, we're going to describe them. We want them to be very specific and we want them to be attainable. Pass this class, improve my test scores. For the rest of the semester, I will turn in all of my homework on time. These are perfectly valid goals. So take the time to write down 3 goals and make them relevant to activity. And then you're going to talk about measurement. How are you going to measure success? It doesn't have to be a specific number. I can say that I want to be more confident when I'm taking an exam. That's a perfectly valid goal, a perfect valid measurement. How am I going to measure that confidence? Well, maybe I'll measure it with my anxiety level. And if you do have issues with anxiety, which many students do, try and use a range. So instead of improving my test scores by 10%, I'm going to say I'm going to improve my test scores between 5 and 10%. Give yourself a little wiggle room so that you don't stress yourself out. Go ahead and do that. And now let's talk about milestones. Some of our larger or long-term goals. Maybe your goal is eventually to get an associate's in whatever your major is. But set up some milestones to celebrate along the way. Passing a midterm, finishing the end of a semester successfully. Think about what are some of the milestones that you can celebrate to keep yourself motivated. Now, key habits. What kind of personal habits do you need to change to make this happen? So as an example, instead of just studying willy-nilly, maybe you're going to record the hours that you spent studying to make sure that you spend a certain number of hours studying per week. Maybe you're going to access GCC's tutoring services. We have free tutoring services for all students. Or prowl our website for opportunities for group study. Next, think about obstacles. What obstacles might prevent you from achieving them? If you've done some of our previous videos, you can go back to your mind map and look at some of the negative impacts there are in your environment. Now, just start thinking about what kind of things are preventing you right now from being the kind of successful student you want to be, and write those down. Next, you're going to talk about plans for overcoming each of those obstacles. Starting one at a time, how could you adapt and turn that obstacle into an opportunity? Can we ask GCC for accommodations? Can we get an accountability buddy? We've already talked tutoring. Tutoring can be both a strategy and an obstacle plan. And motivation, connecting the why to the how. Dive into some detail on your feelings. Why are these things important to you? Being able to say, well, I've always wanted to be a veterinarian. That's a strong motivator. Write down what your motivation is for each of your three goals. And finally, let's look at your identity. What does accomplishing this goal mean for who you are? I am a college graduate. You want to be able to say that, okay? And that is a powerful and strong motivator to keep you going on those goals that you select. So you talk about SMART goals. Now you should have three very specific goals that you have a complete plan for overcoming. And our key takeaway from this segment, SMART goals will help me stay motivated, help me stay on track, and help me be confident in my learning journey. And I hope you've picked up something new from our segments today. If you haven't watched the previous segments, please feel free to go back, watch the entire segment on Bridging the Gap for better learning.